Well, it's been a long time coming. I've been sick and unable to do challenges for a while, but in that time, I was itching to do a challenge. I've recently been burnt out from playing Iceborne the normal way and really wanted to spice things up. And now that I've been getting better, it's time that you guys get a challenge video. I am Reavertolt, and today, we answer the question, is it possible to beat Iceborne without ever dodging? Now before we get started, I want to mention that the last no dodge challenge I did exceeded the 500 like goal. I was actually surprised you guys killed it. Thank you guys so much for liking these challenges. I am a man of my word, and even though you guys didn't see the Iceborne version of this challenge for quite a while, I still pulled through. And if you guys haven't seen the first no dodge video, I recommend checking that out first, as this challenge will make more sense as we go. So let's go over the rules. No dodging during a quest, doing so forces a restart. You must play solo, no glitches or mods. To complete the challenge, you must beat the final boss of Iceborne. So without any further ado, let's get into the challenge. So going straight into the Hoarfrost Reach, a Biototus gets in our way. With our high rank gear, this quest took a long time. It's been a while since I played without dodging. Biototus wasn't too bad, but the fact that this fight went on so long concerns me for the rest of the game. And I even dodged in the fight and had to restart. Not surprising, as I had to get used to not dodging again. After taking it down, we decide to go to Master Rank Optionals to hunt Baroth. His parts are needed to upgrade our light bowgun. After upgrading it, we go on to our next target, the mighty Antechadrome Bombaro. This one was pretty easy, as his head is a big weak point for stun, although some of his attacks can be hard to avoid without dodging. But regardless, Bombaro goes down. We now temporarily have the Serious Handler as our partner. You know, why is this partnership temporary? They could have at least allowed us to switch between the two. Our first target is Nightshade Pallumu. This fight was going surprisingly well despite how much sleep we had to deal with. Although this fight was taking long, which resulted in us using up most of our ammo. That and the fact that his tail attacks can be hard to avoid without dodging. But one thing did happen in this fight. After taking it down, we move on to Coral Puke Puke. He wasn't too hard, other than the hunt taking almost as long as Nightshade. But other than that, this one went, "Aw, no!" So what happened here was I stopped the recording before chasing down Coral and pressed spacebar on accident as I moved forward, forcing me to dodge. It didn't show on camera, but regardless, we have to redo this quest. On our second attempt, we got it down. Next is Barioth. By the way, big shout out to Chronopinoi X, who did this challenge on Barioth, and he did it with Sword and Shield, which is crazy to me. I highly recommend checking out that video he did in the description below. And now for our fight with Barioth. Let me tell you, this was a tough fight without dodging. When you're dealing with a pseudo-wyvern, you're bound to have trouble because of how fast they attack. Barioth gave me a lot of trouble here, but I was patient with the process, as this was an interesting one to fight with our rule set. And before long, Barioth went down. I hope you're watching this, Chrono, because I did this one for you. After that, we hunt Nagakugo, which took a good while, and I eventually fainted twice in the run. And his attacks are really hard to avoid when you can't dodge. And using the clutch attack twice to weaken the head didn't help. But after a while, this one is done. Glavinus was up next, and let me tell you, this one was a doozy. It's hard to avoid his tail attacks when not dodging because of how much reach his tail has. Although thanks to you guys for telling me in the last video, I can use Nullberries to heal Fire Blight. Unfortunately though, I dodged over halfway through the fight. After coming back and taking him down, we decide to farm Diablos for some parts to not only upgrade our light bowgun, but also to get the leggings for Tremor Resist and Slugger. I don't know about you guys, but I love smacking monsters in the face to deal stun. It's oddly satisfying. However, I was missing one material, the tail case. Getting this was going to be tricky because with what we have, we can't exactly sever Diablo's tail. Or can we? In case you guys didn't know, there's an item in Monster Hunter that'll help with this. The Boomerang. You can throw this item at monsters and it does 1 to 2 damage. It also does cutting damage. And even though we can't cut off the tail, we can still do part breaker damage to it. Well, this is easier said than done. I was doing a lot of damage to the tail and it still wouldn't come off with the Boomerang. I ended up using up all my boomerangs and... oh, we got the tail case. Never mind. Tigrex was up, and this one was both easy and hard at the same time. While it was hard to avoid most of his attacks, it wasn't hard to deal damage. Although Odogaron kept getting in the way in tight spaces, which didn't help. But despite that, we got it down. I do have to grind Tigrex more, as I'll need some of his gear. After grinding a bit to get some better gear, we fight our next target, Brakidios. Unlike the fight with Teostra in the last video, this time I have a chance to heal off the Blast Blight without dodging. However, that almost doesn't make the fight any easier. Braki's punches can sometimes be unavoidable, but even so, this fight isn't that bad. Stunning him was quite easy and getting in good damage wasn't that hard. And after some time, he goes down. And now comes our next objective after the handler talks about her grandfather. It's one thing to have a poorly developed character, but come on! Who is her grandfather? Here comes Velkhana! This is just a repel fight, but I gotta say, this was oddly enjoyable. I was able to deal good damage, and on top of that, I took no damage. But I won't underestimate Velkhana, as repel versions tend to be trivial compared to the actual fight. Up next, we have Shrieking Legianna. He was actually kind of easy, and it's not hard to avoid his attacks without dodging, until the normal one shows up and tries to get on our way. But despite that, he goes down in epic fashion. Just watch. Yeah, we are just that good. Now we face Fulgur Anjanath, which is fought this late in the game for some reason? Anyway, this one was easy for the most part. His attacks aren't hard to avoid and getting good damage is no problem, but because of how much damage he was doing and our weakness to thunder, we fainted at least once. But once we come back, we take it down. Next is Acidic Glavinus. You're the reason we don't have the Fated Foe! He wasn't that hard. In fact, I'd say he was easier than normal Glavinus. His attacks were much easier to avoid without dodging. And just like that, we take it down. Ebony Odogaron is up, and this one was pretty difficult because of the amount of damage we were taking. And also, with him being so fast, it made it difficult to deal damage. But after being patient, he goes down. So now we come to the siege quest where we have to repel Velkhana. Again. While it was easy the first time, I experienced Velkhana with its full abilities this time around. I am now expecting this to be harder once we hunt it. This siege was going pretty well though, until we get to the Dragon Razor. This is where things start to go wrong. Once we got the thing loaded the first time and fire it, we miss. I tell you, in all the times I've been doing this, I've never missed the Dragon Razor once. And the fact that I had to reload it after I missed was a pain. Especially when I had Velkhana on my tail the whole time. I would get hit left and right trying to load the thing. And not being able to dodge didn't help. And when I finally loaded it again, we missed. Again. By a hair. Oh my goodness, this was aggravating. But once I finally got the Dragon Razor loaded again, I made sure Velkhana was centered and fired the thing and got the hit. Finally. I've never had this much trouble in a siege quest before. That was let's just fight the thing. In the actual fight, Velkhana isn't that bad. Most of the attacks are so easy to avoid that I'd say it's almost too easy to avoid them without dodging. At least with light bowgun. Not sure about the other weapons. However, despite how well we were doing, we were stuck between an ice wall and a hard place and fainted. And after that, I dodged on accident. Again. I couldn't catch it on camera again, but I may have pressed the spacebar when I hit stop record. That was really unfortunate. Time to try again. It was at this point where I was starting to lose my patience, but I had to calm down a little. I did faint twice in this run, but once I got back into my rhythm, Velkhana goes down. Seething Basilgoose was up, and this one wasn't very hard with no dodging, although I did get bombarded a bunch of times due to impatience. Had to take a break. As soon as I got back my patience, this one was a breeze. Although a Savage Pickle got in my way in the process. Our next target is bound to be a doozy, so we have a level 4 Miasma Jewel that should make our lives easier. Keyword, should. Black Veil Valhazak wasn't very difficult until you start taking damage over time. And he did feint us twice because of instances I just couldn't get out of. One of them because I got too greedy trying to clutch claw. This is a fight you absolutely have to be patient and careful going into. If you don't pay attention to your health, you'll basically drop dead. That almost happened to me a couple times this run, but after applying what I just mentioned, he goes down. Up next we have Namiel, and boy was I not expecting this one to be a massive pain. The water attacks are very hard to avoid without dodging, and the head has to be tenderized to deal good damage. And that is not easy considering we're using a light bowgun. And for whatever reason, when I clutched onto the face, it detached me as it was about to do the explosion attack, and I survived. I have no idea how that didn't kill me. But despite that, we failed because of bad timing and positioning. Time to try again. I have failed again because of bad timing and positioning. Again. I just have one question. How was Chrono Pinoy X able to do this? Ah man, I dodged. Welp, time to attempt this yet again. After many failed attempts, we finally take down Namiel. Goodness, that was quite the hunt. Then we come to the second to last monster, Ruiner Nergigante. This one was hard but manageable. While it is hard to avoid some of his dispersing spike attacks, he's not that hard to deal with without dodging. It's pretty easy to get some damage in provided the spikes are soft. He did feint me once though, but regardless, he goes down. Now we come to the final boss, Shara Ishvalda. It was a stare down. Me and Shara about to go head to head. I'm just gonna leave. Just kidding. I needed to return from the quest to restock on items. So the fight wasn't all that bad. I just had to shoot it to the wall when I can and use pierce rounds as well as spread shots when he went down. Although avoiding his bulldoze can be a pain. And in the second phase, it was easy to use spread shots on his face when his head is weakened. This was almost too easy. Why do I even get cocky? On my second attempt, I had to focus on the wings this time. I did feint a couple of times trying to weaken the head for more damage. This time I had to be really careful. I was shooting the wings with both normal and piercing rounds and had to be wary of his attacks. There was one moment where I was trying to get to him when he was charging his spirit bomb. I had no idea he could aim that thing. I always thought he aimed it towards the middle, but despite that, I survived. I couldn't believe it. At some point, we reached 10 minutes left, which was starting to worry me. I had already ran out of normal 2s at this point when I needed them. Even restocking back at camp didn't give me all I needed. So I had to go in with normal 1s and just keep shooting the wings. This was starting to get stressful. Until this happens. We beat Shara Ishvalda. Now it's time to answer the question. Is it possible to beat Iceborne without ever dodging? The answer is yes. This challenge wasn't the hardest I've taken on, but there were times when it was very difficult. I'm glad I was able to make this video and get it out to you guys. I was burnt out from playing the game normally and wanted to spice things up. I had a lot of fun with this challenge. The next challenge we do will be a result of a light goal that was reached in the Can You Beat MHGU by doing quests only once. Only this time, it's for the G rank version. And with that, thank you very much for watching. If you would like to see more like this, consider liking the video. Consider subscribing and keep up with my content. Be kind to one another, and have a most wonderful day.